listening to 9394, a music podcast with me. How's it going? You are here today to listen to me talk to my friend Jess about the album Cure for Pain from that band Morphine. Morphine is one of those bands that felt somewhat obscure, at least to me as a teenager at the time, listening to them, but as time has marched on, they have clearly come to be extremely well regarded, one of the better regarded bands. This is one of the better regarded albums from the era. They're one of those bands that built up a dedicated and consistent following even before the untimely passing of Mark Sandman. So it was a real delight to sit and talk about this with my old friend Jess. You ever been friends with siblings? If you're friends with them for decades, you can be closer to one for a while and then life kind of takes you both in whatever path, and then you kind of are closer to the other one for a little while, then maybe you're closer to the other one again. It's funny how that works, and I have an older brother that a lot of my friends are friends with, and I'm friends with a lot of my friends' brothers as well. Just kind of the way it worked out, I guess, when you all go to high school together. So here's me and Jess talking about the seminal album. Is that the right word? Do I mean seminal? Do I need to look up the word seminal? Probably. I feel like I'm using it correctly. Consisting of seed or... Wait a minute. No. Having a strong influence on ideas, works, events that come later. That's Britannica. Okay, I used it correctly. We can move forward now. Thank you. Let's do this.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, there he is.
Hey, all right.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
I was trying to make sure it was going to use this microphone that I painstakingly set up.
You sound great.
Good.
Yeah, you sound good.
She had a smile that swerved, she had a smile that curved, she had a smile that swerved all over the road.
Okay, well, thank you first of all for coming on the show. Truly appreciated.
Absolutely.
I like to start at the most basic point. How do you and I know one another, Jess?
I was trying to think about this because I've heard the show before, so I had to prep. Obviously, you were friends with Morgan, well before me, and
yeah,
people can listen to all about that in the Jawbox episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have met you probably once or twice through him, and then we hung out a lot more when we were both in bands. So you guys in Kill Drama, I think we opened for you in one of the bands I was in at some point. Arte, yeah.
Right?
Probably would have been that.
I think it was Arte.
So a few times there. I don't think we ever really talked a ton. It was just we knew who each other were.
Yeah.
I remember hanging out with you the most probably at the Ypsilanti dump.
Mm-hmm. Like a home, not a garbage site.
This is not a facility.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, hanging out at the Ypsi dump. I remember talking in the basement about something late at night, too many drinks, I'm sure, talking about probably music.
Yeah.
That probably would have been the first time hanging out. And then from then on out, it was a bunch of different bands playing together, right? No less than 3 bands, I think, together.
That you and I have been in together?
Yeah.
We were, let's count it real quick. We were in Limbs of Trees together. We were in Fountain and Fairfax together.
Yeah.
What's the third one?
Trapeze Empire.
It's just you and me in that, but studio band.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I definitely remember you being at Morgan's in your home as a kid and paying zero attention to you when I came over because I'm it's Morgan's little brother. I'm here to talk to him. Fuck off. We're doing stuff.
Right.
We didn't hang out. And then, later on, and we kind of partied together a few times.
Yep.
Running the same circles at the dump, at the dungeon, and Ypsilanti, and those kind of social groups. Yep. And then, of course, I started dating someone who was a good friend of yours, Cassie.
Right.
And actually, even before she and I started dating, you, me, and her were at whose wedding? Was it Dave and Jen's wedding? I feel like maybe.
Were you there?
Yeah.
You might have been. I don't know.
I was there.
That was I think the first wedding I had ever been to. And definitely, I stood in his wedding. And so that was at the church. You remember that?
It was a wedding at a church. That's correct. It was a Catholic church. There was a lot of standing up and sitting down.
Uh-huh. Yep.
What stands out, of course, is like you, me, and Cassie dancing our fool asses off on the dance floor all night long to like Cotton Eye Joe.
Yep. Okay.
Shit like that. That was when you and I like really like clicked.
Distinct memory of dancing
Yes.
to Cotton Eye Joe. Really, really drunk.
Yes. Yes. Like stupid drunk dancing.
Yeah.
Then you and I started hanging out more because of Cassie. And then it's like, oh, this guy is awesome. And he loves Talking Heads. So I was like, oh, he knows things about heads, he knows things about music. Like, oh. And then with those few years before I moved away, we were pretty inseparable for a few years there.
Yeah. A lot of bands playing together. That was a lot of fun times.
Many good times, canoeing and whatnot. Lots of drinking. There's a lot of drinking involved.
Yeah.
A lot of drinking and dancing with you and me. In a bar, in a kitchen, wherever.
Yeah.
Put a couple in us and we're going to have a good time.
Yep. Always fun.
So let's get to Morphine. How did you come to the album?
Well, I wish I could say that I got it in 93 because that would be super cool, but did not. I was in college and I was living in an efficiency, which was just a total nightmare.
A lot of silverfish, I believe, that bugs silverfish, right? I remember hearing about the
a lot
silverfish.
of pink tile and silverfish. It was super gross. Really dim lighting. No internet. So I would go to work as a screen printer. And while I was there, I would hop on LimeWire.
Dates it.
Yeah, that dates it. That's the downloading app of the time. So they had a good internet connection. So I would just basically download a bunch of music.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like walk in with like a list of things like, you know, I don't have a lot of money, so I want to find the most bang for my buck. Which album am I going to buy with my like $15?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go download a bunch of random songs. And I'm sure the first time I heard Morphine was Buena, downloading that and then being blown away. I'd never heard them before. I kind of knew like what they were about. I'm like, oh, there's no guitarist. That's interesting. He does this weird thing with like a slide bass and like he cuts the strings off and like, what's going on with that? And so hearing that for the first time and being like, wow, I can't believe it sounds so full for being like 3 people, no guitar, half the bass strings.
Right.
It's like this crazy like wave of low sound coming at you with like baritone vocals and baritone saxophone. Is pretty intense. So immediately I went off and got it. I remember going to this place in Ferndale. It was an old record store. And I want to say pyramid or a triangle or some geometric shape of some sort. Music.
Yeah.
All the dividers are like white plastic and someone had taken time to like write the names all in like a goofy logo and stuff. And so I remember going in there trying to find it and they didn't have it. So I had to order it. I remember waiting for it, you know.
Wow. You had to order it.
Here it is.
There it is on CD.
Yeah. Woo.
The original that you got. That's awesome.
Yep. So I would have gotten it then and probably just continued to listen to it up until now.
Yeah, same. It's one of those albums that I've never put down in my life. Even when I got into screamo and punk and was like really headlong into that kind of stuff, it took me a while to kind of get into other Morphine albums. But this album I just never walked away from. This is one that I got as one of my many experiences with the Columbia House or BMG. I got it on cassette.
Ooh, trumped me with the tape. Look at that.
Yeah, I got it. And I think early 94, may have been late 93 because it came out in September of 93. It was on Ryko Records. I was always like mad at Ryko Records. This uniformity in the cassettes, there's always like that blue background with the black font, you know? And like on my cassettes would have like a bunch of blue ones. Like I can't tell which one that is from a distance.
Right.
But now I'm all nostalgic for it. I'm like, oh, there it is with the blue font on the cassette itself. And this cassette does not really play anymore. I've worn it the fuck out, but I keep it as like a personal totem.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
I think it was Buena that I got into first as well. I think that was the first single from the album, probably on MTV or
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, Beavis and Butthead or 89X or something like that. When I sat down as a kid and just kind of like threw darts at the wall in terms of my Columbia House choices, I was like, yeah, I'm familiar. The same. It was like all I really knew was like 2-string bass player, drummer, and for a long time I misunderstood. I thought that Dana Colley played like 2 saxophones at the same time. He will sometimes have like 2 strapped on him and like go back and forth, but for some reason I had it in my head like as a kid he had like one on either side of his mouth and was like playing it that way.
So I'm going to interrupt, and you're right. As a kid he does do that, and one will be like a baritone and one will be like a, I don't know, alto saxophone, right? And then it'll be like 2, from what I understand, he can play like 2 parts, which is mind-blowing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how you shape your mouth to get like two reeds in there at the same time.
That'd be so weird.
Yeah, there's video of it too, and you're like,
Yeah.
what is happening? It's bizarre.
I guess I did see that as a kid, and I grew older, and like that's like Santa Claus. I'm making shit up here in my head, like it's a myth.
Yeah.
No
Right.
one could do that.
The legend of Morphine.
Yeah. Well, they're certainly achieved legendary status, I feel like, as time has gone on, because they're one of those bands that this album, it popped pretty well on the college charts and that kind of stuff. But the follow-up albums did not really make much of a splash in terms of, like, you know, the mass audience. But as time has gone on, how many movies and TV shows have I heard these songs on? Like any song from the album, you know, it just shows up.
Right. And you can tell like right away. It's like the first three notes, you're like, oh, that's Morphine. Like,
Yeah.
It's so distinct.
Yeah. I think they're kind of a musician's band.
Did you ever see Spanking the Monkey, that David O. Russell film?
I've never seen that.
I haven't either.
The songs figure prominently in there. I know that.
Right. And it's like on my short list, I'm like, the movie I'm probably not going to like, but you know, I like David O. Russell stuff, but like from reading the blurb about what it's about, it's like, okay, this is going to be dumb, but I'll listen to it, you know, see how they use morphine in the video and stuff.
Yeah, even as a kid, I was like, I don't know that I need to see something called Spanking the Monkey. I watched a movie about it. That seems like I'm admitting something as a 13-year-old that I wasn't prepared to do.
Mom, can we rent this?
Right.
Up at VG's or something.
Candy says she wants me with her down in Candyland.
As far as the album goes itself, could you pick a favorite song off the album?
So I debated back and forth between Cure for Pain, the song, and Candy, which I think just historically were always like my two favorite songs. Like Candy, I would say like for the longest time was number one. And that like saxophone solo halfway through is like unbelievable. Like, and take it from me, who knows saxophone solos.
Because you play a lot of saxophone?
No, not at all. Like, I'm just some dude. I know nothing about saxophone solos, but like in my like notes as I was, you know, listening, I put possibly the greatest saxophone solo ever recorded, which is, you know, probably not correct, but certainly my favorite.
The guy from Lost Boys has a bone to pick with you, but
yeah, he's pissed.
That is a sweet solo, and since there's not much guitar on the album, the sax solos kind of shine through maybe even more because they're very uncluttered by anything else.
Right, yeah, there's a lot of space for him to do whatever he's going to do. And this Cure for Pain, because that's also got like an amazing saxophone solo. So maybe listening through it is like, those stick out as like just gems throughout the whole album.
Yeah.
But great like flanger tone on the bass for Cure for Pain. So it's just like this like underwater, like wow, 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 like murky, you know, sound that it's just excellent. It's amazing.
You know, it's funny. There's like two percussionists that would sometimes play at the same time in the band. And I don't think that much on this album they recorded at the same time. Like they were kind of doing like double duty. Live, I think they would play together more often.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on Cure for Pain. I did the same thing. I kind of vacillated between Cure for Pain and actually Thursday. I like Thursday a whole bunch. I like the story that's told there. You know, I mean, it's not a good story. It's not a happy story, but it's like it's an interesting story. I can see it in my head, you know, and just the vibe of it. The way he's like yelling stuff, like, just like in the background, just like, you're like, yeah, fucking go, man. Like, go. It makes you want to like bob your head around and move a bunch, you know. Good jam.
Then a game of pool. We used to go to a motel across the street. Then the name of the motel was a wagon wheel.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of storytelling in some of these. Like Candy's pretty dark, and I assume that if I'm interpreting correctly, there's a lot of like suicidal talk in that, which is kind of a bummer. And maybe that's one like detractor from it. There's a lot of feels in there.
Yeah,
it can be like moody, where you're like, this is like a little dark for me. I'm gonna move on to something else, something more upbeat.
Glum a little bit. And then Sheila, a bit of a song there about a cat. There's a cat. Sheila has a cat.
Right, pets the cat, etc.
Well, it's a very basic premise, I guess.
Right. Speaking of Sheila, also a really cool saxophone instance at like a minute and a half where
I know exactly what you're talking about.
it like pops out where it's like he's playing chords, like it's overdubbed, or he's playing like a stream of notes and then overdubs it, I think, with like another saxophone and another saxophone part, and it's just like those are my notes for that song. I'm like, this part is amazing. Like there's such a cool like vibe to it. I think it's a minute and a half in.
Yeah, it's not my favorite song on the album, but that's one of my favorite moments on the album.
Agree.
Yeah, it's really cool. All three of these guys, well, I guess four of them, they really get to shine in their given moments. Could you pick an underrated song from the album? Is there a song that you think doesn't get enough attention?
Yeah, I'd say Let's Take a Trip Together is pretty underrated.
Headlong into the irresistible orbit.
It's got like a really cool, like relaxed vibe to it, but like the first couple of notes, like dun, dun, and like immediately relaxes me and like takes me into like a certain headspace. It doesn't sound a lot like the other ones. Everything else is really kind of like growling bass and like pretty active, let's say, but this song is a lot more like chilled out, and I don't know. I don't think it gets as much love. I could be totally wrong. I haven't like discussed this with many people, right?
Right.
But that would be my first thought, where it's like people know like, Buena and Thursday and some of those ones, but maybe this one they don't know as well.
It's probably the most relaxed track on the album, the most groovy and kind of vibe setting in a lot of ways. For me, if I have to pick a weakest track on the album, that's the track for me, only because it feels like, might be partly because of the placement on the album. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the song. I literally love the song. I love every song on this album. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. Maybe not top 5, but maybe top 10. Like it's up there for me. So I truly love every song on the album. But I also kind of think like the placement of it's not perfect, because by that point in the album, like it's a bit of a lull, that song in that moment. So it seems like it could have been a little earlier for me. And also, since I'm so used to listening to it on cassette, they do such a great job of having like the first half of the album end with In Spite of Me, and then Thursday really kicks things off. So when on that side B, it's like really, really going strong with Thursday, Cure for Pain, Mary Won't You Call My Name, and then suddenly it just kind of like takes a big shift, and you're like, oh, okay, we're relaxing now. But I hear your point. For me, I'd say the underrated song on the album, All Wrong, I think. It was never a single, but it's got some of the best lyrics, I think, in there, and it has like just a really... I try to tell myself, don't use the word sexy to describe the songs, but like, how could you not, right? Like, it's such a sexy kind of groovy song.
Killer bass line on that too.
Yeah.
That song is awesome.
Yeah. Again, I imagine you love every song on this album too, but if you had to pick a weakest, can you?
Yeah, I'd say outside of Miles Davis's Funeral, which is just the very end where...
Yeah, and Donna.
Right. Like Donna, I just don't skip. I think that's such a cool intro, and it's really short.
I love
so it's not like it's like dragging or anything. It's just such a neat intro. And they used it as the intro, I think, to the documentary too, which I'm like, oh, this is perfect placement.
Yes.
Makes the most sense. As far as like a weak song, the one that I'm going to skip, if I'm going to skip one, would probably be Mary, Won't You Call My Name. I think it's the feel of it. Like it has like a certain like rockabilly sound to it a little bit, which for me is a little bit off-putting, because it's just, I don't know. I don't like it as much. That's all. I still like it, just compared to like the rest of the album, right?
When I think of the album, it's not one that comes to mind, right? Like I think of I'm Free Now, I think of Buena, I think of course, Cure for Pain. But you brought up the documentary, so you've seen this documentary.
Yeah, it's really good.
Journey of Dreams for the uninitiated.
I watched it when it probably, I don't know when it came out. I didn't take a note on that.
2014.
Okay. As soon as it was available to me, like on streaming or whatever, I watched it. It was great. And then I watched it a few nights ago just to kind of bone up on it.
Oh, right on.
It's really takes you into like where he's at. And he's such a, and when I say he, I mean Mark Sandman.
Mark Sandman, yeah.
Sandman, right? Cool name.
Yeah, really just like too perfect almost
Right.
for this band.
Right. He's really a kind of mysterious dude and had a lot of
Yeah,
trauma, I guess, in his life, which is kind of crazy. Like his time as a cab driver.
got stabbed.
Yeah. So like family members had passed when he was younger. And it sounds like he had
Mhm.
some like dark stuff going on in his life that kind of most likely fed into Morphine, the sound of them, this
Yeah.
like bass tone that they have, this really low sound. It like goes along really well with his life and who he is.
If you're listening to this and you like Morphine at all, you really need to check out Journey of Dreams. And it's on YouTube now, a high quality version for free. So you just watch it on there if you've never seen it before. But yeah, it really brings you in close with the band and his death, which has been romanticized in so many ways because he died on stage and he died so young. I mean, he was an older rocker. He was like 46 when he died, and he was, I think, 41 when this album came out.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, he'd already been in Treat Her Right, but this was the band that like popped. I think that documentary does a great job of really breaking down this myth that he was a drug addict. Everybody tried to, he's in a band called Morphine. Like, no, dude, that had nothing to do with it. He walked up a whole bunch of fucking stairs on a really hot day, and he was super stressed and was a heavy smoker. End of story.
Right. It's a really good documentary. It kind of goes through like the whole, you know, how they started. What I thought was pretty interesting too is that it kind of goes into depth on like how he recorded. You know, it shows like his loft apartment, and it's just like, you know, recording like not cheap, but like just recording equipment of the time. It was probably really good recording equipment of the time, but you know, by today's standards, it's like the old Blur tricks and things like that.
Yeah.
But it just kind of talks about how they recorded it. Some of this album was recorded and mixed there, which that's kind of mind blowing. In '93, you're in like just your, you know, studio apartment with some 4 tracks and things like that, and you can come off with a recording that sounds like this good.
Yeah, I was just talking about that yesterday, how impressed I am when a band can, like, because they recorded the rest of this in Fort Apache, which is a great studio.
Yeah.
And that mix of really good studio work combined with like the gravelly raw stuff that you literally did in your room. I always think that works really well on an album when that's done together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. And also that documentary features a lot of Billy interviews, and we lost him to cancer in, I think, 2021. So it's nice that he was able to get this out there, and because you get a lot of his personal story in it too, which is cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting to see their take, and especially on the drummer aspect of it, because there was 2 drummers and there was some back and forth. And
you're right.
I think it was Jerome Dupree who had issues with his hands. Right.
Issues with his hands, but I've also read that he and Mark Salmon kind of had some conflict too, I've heard.
Yeah, I think they touched on that in the documentary as well.
Speaking of Treat Her Right, have you ever gotten into Treat Her Right?
No, but after watching that documentary again, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go and check that out to see what do they sound like. Does it sound like Morphine? Does it sound like you can hear hints of it, or is it just completely different, you know?
It makes me happy to hear you say that, honestly, because like I remember hearing of Treat Her Right back in the day, but I had no idea that they were connected. Like, even as I was listening to Morphine, I'd like hear people talk of Treat Her Right, and I just thought it was some old band. I didn't know it was his old band. So I never listened to them until literally today. Today, this morning, put on the album Tied to the Train Tracks, and it's really good. Of course, it's really good. I'm going to dig in. I've gotten into all the other Morphine albums. This is still my favorite, Cure for Pain. I like Swimming would probably be my second favorite. But yeah, now I'm like, shit, I have no explanation. Like, what the fuck is, like, decades of being aware that this guy whose music I love had this other band. I just never delved into it before. I don't understand my own brain sometimes.
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten into them. I'd say like my second favorite Morphine album's probably Good, and then maybe Yes after that.
And then there's the Detroit Bootleg, which is pretty great too.
Which is really cool because that was at St. Andrews in 1994.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
That is very cool.
For us, it's like the legendary stage, right? Where we've seen countless bands.
All our favorite bands.
Right?
If they're a band that we love, they probably play on St. Andrews stage if they come to Detroit.
Right. Where they're cutting up the floor and selling it, right? You hear about that? That's great.
Yeah, I'd love a piece of it, actually. Neither one of us ever saw these people live, right?
No.
How cool it would have been to be at that show in '94, but I was not cool enough.
No.
What year did he die? 1990.
99. July 3rd, 99.
In Palestrina, Italy.
Right.
which they kind of like worship him there, the way that the documentary makes it sound like
Right.
that he was widely respected before he died there.
Yeah.
And then he died there. It's like a spiritual home for him, I guess.
Yeah, there's a big, I think, plaque or monument there with his name on it. I think at the base of the steps that they, discuss them walking up.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I ever go to Italy, I'm going to want to go there.
Absolutely. How awesome would that be?
Absolutely. I don't know if I climb the stairs. I'm a big man. I don't know if I want to climb. So maybe I'll go in October or something and take my time up the stairs.
Yeah, right.
I throw my drugs away. We'll find a cure for pain. We'll find a cure for pain. We'll find a cure for pain.
What song would you want to use to wrap up our interview here?
I'm going to go with I'm Free Now.
Okay, why?
I don't know. It's just an awesome song. I don't know.
The vibe on that one is so, because you were talking about how Candy is kind of undercover dark, right? And this one is less under, because like you listen to the lyrics, you're like, all right, he's honest, he swears. Then it's like, oh, he's a piece of shit, he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I'm such a fuck up and such a waste. It's like,
yeah, it's kind of hard to listen to in some ways.
yeah, and the music doesn't sound like that, right?
Right.
Nothing is like super upbeat in this album, but like that's one of them, I guess, one of the more upbeat songs.
Yeah,
right?
it is. I'd agree.
I mean, who can't like, I don't know,
Who hasn't felt like that?
Exactly. Who hasn't felt like I'm such a fuck up and such a waste at one point or in their life or another? And,
And it sounds like he's apologizing to like a partner. I know he was with the same woman for like most of his adult life.
right.
And it's probably, I'm assuming, talking to her, but it's very much like, yeah, I fucked up. I'm the biggest fuck up. I'm the fucking worst. And yeah, you're right. Like it's sad, but it's also relatable and a really good listen. It's one of my favorite songs on the album.
Speaking of that, like, how many girl song names do they have, right? I tried to take note. I'm like, okay, we got Claire, Lisa, Donna, Sheila, Candy, Mary.
Honey White.
Honey White could be, yeah. Lila, a lot of girl names for songs.
Right.
From what the doc was showing, it's like he's been with the same woman for a long, long time. So it's like, is this just like before they got together and he was just like a womanizer or something or what?
And that's one of the mysteries of the band, because he was always kind of shy about doing press. Like you listen to Thursday and it's like, he's clearly singing about cheating with someone's wife.
Right.
And it's like, did he do this before he was with his partner? Is this a completely fabricated story? Is it?
Could be.
Who knows? Most of these, I assume, are either like from before his wife. I don't think they ever got officially married, but basically his wife. Either before that or he's calling her some other name, writing about her, but calling her something.
Right.
I don't know.
What you think of him just from like listening to the music and the albums, like it might be like completely different, right? You'd think he's a drug addict. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Right. I think he's like a great swordsman out there, like sleeping with all sorts of exotic women. No, he's just with one woman his like entire life.
Right. Yeah. Maybe he understood the importance of that rock star kind of mythos and like letting people think whatever they want to think about him.
Yeah. Maybe. The only other kind of fun fact is that I'm going to presume friends of the show, Bear vs. Shark, featured Dana Colley on Braga Embankment on their album Terrorhawk, which is super cool, right?
Yeah, which is awesome. Dana Colley seems like, besides doing Vapors of Morphine, and I want to say, was he in the Twinesmen? I'm not sure, but he kind of like became a studio sax slinger, I guess. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like showing up on studio albums for Bear vs. Shark and a bunch of different other people.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like you are the premier alternative indie rock saxophonist. It's a badge of honor to have someone like that on your album. I always thought it was super cool that Bear vs. Shark got him on there.
It's amazing. I don't know. I got to talk to them and see like how did that come about. Like the producer knows someone who knows someone, or like they asked for him specifically, like we want Dana.
I asked John about it once many years ago and I kind of forgot his answer, but it was something along those lines. It was like somebody knew somebody over at Equal Vision and like pulled the strings, and got him in there. And I don't think they really interacted with him that much from what I gathered, but I could be wrong on that part. But that's definitely cool.
I got a head with wings. Head with wings. I got a head with, yeah. Oh! A head with wings.
You know, his bass playing and style, I thought like the mechanics of him like buying this, I think it's a Premier bass, but it's like kind of like a pawn shop find as far as I could tell. Really cool looking bass with like a scroll top to it, but cutting the strings off of that, and then I think he put in like a custom nut that was higher to lift it off the fretboard because it wasn't fretless. It still had frets on it, but they're going to interrupt the slide when he's using it. So he put a nut on there that's tall enough that the frets become kind of useless outside of like markers for the notes. And so you'd use that and a slide along with it to make these sounds, along with sometimes then coming up with like, I think he called one like a tritar, where it's like, I couldn't tell if it was 2 bass strings and 1 guitar string or 2 guitar strings and 1 bass string.
Even in Treater Right, I think a lot of times he didn't call himself like a bass player. He said he played low guitar.
How cool is that? Just like, you know what? I'm just going to tear this thing apart and make it what I want it to be instead of just, you know, it's a bass like the one behind me here and like just play that the way it is, stock, whatever.
Right.
Making new instruments like that is unbelievable, right? And then, you know, executing it on an album. It's not like, you know, you made this cool like tritar and you use it on like one song. What he's doing is featured prominently in the music on all of the albums and is a huge impact on the total sound of the band. But so it's like kudos to him for, you know, being creative enough to come up with this stuff.
I think that's a great point because in their deconstruction of some instruments, it's indicative of how they deconstruct whatever the fuck genre this is, alternative jazz, I guess. I don't know. It's so unique. When I was getting into music in 93 and 94 and I got into this band, that was one of the things that, and I think I've already said this on the show and I'll repeat myself about many things on the show probably, but I love that feeling of like, hey, I'm listening to a band. I can't quite define the boundaries of the genre that it's in. It sounds like they've created their own thing. And sometimes it turns out that they have got all these other influences I'm not aware of. And then sometimes you have someone like Mark Salmon and the rest of Morphine, and they really are doing something wholly unique that no other band has done before or since. And no one can sense in quite the same way without drawing comparisons.
They're good, right? I mean, just wrap this up. Yeah, they're pretty good. Check it out. Whatever.
All right, good. What else you listen to? Anything else these days?
So I've been listening to The Dip a ton.
That's a band, The Dip?
Yeah. Like it's like maybe 8 dudes playing like horns and like jazzy, like...
Okay.
It's fun music. Like you should check it out.
Okay.
What else? Islands. The band Islands is really good. Pile, you went with me to see them. Well, it was just the singer. Always going back to them.
Okay.
Constantly listening to them. How about you? What are you listening to?
You know, always 90s stuff, but I've been getting really into, it came out like in 2010 or 2011, but it's a EP of material that Neutral Milk Hotel wrote like in the early 90s that they recorded like in 2010 or so. So I've been listening to that album a lot lately, and kind of like later Yo La Tango. I've been kind of doing them a little bit lately too.
Always good.
You know, late 90s, early 2000s, Yo La Tango. They're still putting out stuff as far as I know. So maybe mid-career Tango. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. All right. Are you ready for your 90s trivia?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or it's not even trivia. It's
no, it's like
sometimes it is.
Would you rather ...
Yeah. Pick one. Pick one of these things. I'm going to ask you some things about the 90s, and there is no wrong answer this way. So you are a few years younger than me. So in 93, 94, I was 12 through 14. You were 9.
It was 3rd grade.
7. Okay. So you were pretty young.
Yeah.
I know what was still important to me as a 13-year-old in 1993, and that was breakfast cereal. So I'm going to ask you about 5 different cereals that were available in the year 1993 that are no longer in existence.
Defunct cereals.
And you have an option of which one you could eat for breakfast tomorrow in your mind, because you can't actually get them anymore. All right, here are your options. You know what Teddy Grahams are. Yep. There was Teddy Grahams Breakfast Bears was a cereal. It was literally just fucking Teddy Grahams and a bowl of milk. That's it. Cereal.
That sounds pretty good. I probably had it.
Yeah, you probably did.
Mom had a coupon.
If Mom had a coupon, you know you're getting it. Another option, it was discontinued in 1993. That was the last year you could get Mr. T cereal, which
Wow.
I don't know if you recall that. Mr. T cereal.
No, I don't remember.
It was just Captain Crunch, the shape of T's. Delicious.
Wow.
I know Cool, and Cool's teaming up with a good balanced breakfast.
Teaming up with Mr. T cereal. It's getting on the team that knows how cool breakfast can be. You get a crispy corn taste with a touch of brown sugar. Teaming up with Mr. T.
It's Cool.
Kellogg's cinnamon mini buns were pretty popular back in the day. That's one of the ones that, like, in researching for this question, like I saw like a bunch of people like, bring back the mini buns.
Definitely had
Remember
that.
those?
I remember it.
Yeah, those were popular.
I would say overrated.
I'm gonna have to agree with you.
I feel like it was one of those ones that left like a film in your mouth. Like there's some
Yep.
oil or chemical or something that was like, okay, I'm good.
I have never felt like cinnamon and milk belong in the same bowl together at the same time. You get like this weird swirl of crap mixed in with it. It doesn't work for me. All right, so probably not going with that one. Two more options. Rice Krispies Treat cereal. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, we had that a lot.
We had that a lot too. Remember there was like the chunks of Rice Krispies?
Some marshmallow in there.
Yeah, you could carve up the roof of your mouth while you ate them. Real good.
We gotta let this sit in some milk for about 6 minutes. Then you're okay to eat it.
Then you're okay to eat it. That was around for a while. That was introduced in 1993, but you can no longer get it. And then the last option, Dino Pebbles cereal, which was literally just Fruity Pebbles with undyed rice puffs. And the color in the bowl was from marshmallows in the shape of Dino. So I guess not Dino Pebbles, Dino Pebbles. So these are your options. Dino Pebbles, Rice Krispie Treat cereal, Kellogg's Cinnamon Mini Buns, Mr. T cereal, or Teddy Graham's Breakfast Bears.
Oh man. So that's a little bit tough.
I know.
Because I kind of want to lean Teddy Grahams because that's just like a snack, right? I mean, that's just total bullshit.
It sounds filling.
I think they have Pop-Tart cereal, like little Pop-Tarts.
They did, actually. I considered that one too.
I'm going to go with Teddy Graham cereal. I think I would like that the most.
Teddy Graham cereal, you got it.
Wake up, everybody, wake up. The kids were sound asleep. Here's breakfast bears to eat. Their dreams are over at 7 o'clock. Get them up and on their feet.
I think I will join you for a nice bowl of Teddy Graham cereal. Although I guess we technically could just like, because all it really was just Teddy Grahams with like more air in them. Like puffed, you know.
Oh, they're puffed? Oh, I'm changing it. I'm changing it. Never mind.
I want dense cereal. I want density in my
It should be like
cereal.
crackers. Like
All right, man. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. It was fun talking. I mean, this album, again, just one of the fixtures in my life when it comes to music. So it was definitely a delight to talk about it with you.
I'm with you. It's hard to put into words, but it's certainly one of those. It's on my short list for like, you're going to do the Desert Island album. It's in there.
Same.
So amazing album.
And yeah, like every time I do this podcast, I butt up against the fact that it's actually kind of weirdly hard to talk about music. I'm like, oh, I like it. It sounds good. I love it.
And
but I still enjoy doing it. And I enjoy doing it with you. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Like a heartbeat, we don't like to speak. Don't talk to me for about a week. I'm sorry, it just hurts to explain. There's something going on that makes my gut sick. I got guilt, I got fear, I got regret. I'm just a panic-stricken waste. I'm such a jerk. I was honest, I swear. The last thing I wanna do. Honest, I swear. The last thing I wanna do is ever cause you pain.
A big thank you to Jess for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it. The band Morphine was Mark Salmon, Billy Conway, Dana Colley, and Jerome Dupree. And we mentioned the band Treat Her Right, which had featured Mark Salmon and Billy Conway, but we neglected to mention Vapors of Morphine, the band that came after. This is mostly spearheaded by Dana Colley and Jerome Dupree, who is currently no longer in Vapors of Morphine. He has tinnitus and had to step out, but he did co-record the new album. There's some other guys in the band as well, and if you're lucky to catch them, you should definitely keep an eye out for them. And their stuff is available to purchase and to listen to on all the streamers. Definitely worth checking them out. And I'm really glad Jess came on. I hope he comes back on. I find myself walking this line between trying to get people I know to get on the show because they're interested in doing it and want to do it, and it's fun, so they come on. And also, I don't want to be like this guy who lassos my friends and family into some sort of obligation. But if I've not reached out to you personally and we know each other and you would like to come on, please don't take it personally. I'm really trying not to irritate everybody by by making pleas to come onto my show. And if you're a listener that doesn't know me, but if you like the show and you want to come on and talk about an album, that would be cool too. I'd love to talk to some new people. That sounds fun. So by all means, reach out. We could talk about any album you want virtually from 93 to 94. I've been trying to get someone to come on to talk about the 1993 album Laid from the band James. A lot of people just think of the song, the big single, Laid from that album, but every song on that album is fantastic. It's one of my favorite albums, just like Morphine's Cure for Pain. It's in that special echelon of all-time favorite albums. So I'd love to talk about it with someone who also appreciates it. So if that's you, or if you want to talk about some other album, let me know. Just email me at 9394podcast@gmail.com or hit me up on, the usual social media sites. And I thank you so much for listening. I love doing this. I have fun doing this, but it's also kind of like sort of pointless to do it if no one listens. So I really appreciate you all listening. Some people have reviewed and rated on whatever podcast catcher they listen through, and I really appreciate that. If you want to help the show out by giving it a rating, that would be appreciated. So, yeah, I think that's the long and short of it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. A music podcast with Travis Roy is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.